Hello everyone and welcome back. In this lesson we are going to create and dispatch our first store action. The very first action that we are going to add to our application is going to be the login action. This action is going to be dispatched after a successful user login. As we can see, the login screen is part of a feature module that we are importing here directly in our application. It's the authentication module that we are importing here. Everything that is related to the courses belongs here to the courses module, which is here on the courses folder. Now this module, as we can see here, is a lazy loaded module, so it's only going to be loaded whenever we navigate to one of the courses screens. This authentication module, however, will be included by default in the application bundle, so whenever we load the application, we immediately get the login screen. This authentication module is going to have certain NgRx actions that are associated only to this module. So we are going to define them here in an actions file. In order to avoid having to type the actions file manually each time, we are going to be using here Ngrx Schematics to scaffold an actions file. We are going to run then the following command: ngGenerate. We are going to generate an actions file. We're going to put it inside the authentication folder, this folder right here, and we are going to call to this group of actions the auth actions. It's important to understand that we are scaffolding an action folder that is going to contain multiple actions. So this file is going to contain the login and the logout action, for example. Let's then execute this command and see what is the output. So as we can see here at the level of the authentication folder, we have here a new file, auth.actions. This was generated by the schematics command. Let's have a look at this file and see what we have here. This command has generated here a couple of useful constructs that are going to make it easier to write reducers and to use our actions in our application. We have here an example authorization action. Let's now use this as a starting point to create our login action. Let's go ahead and rename the action that was generated. We are going to call it then the login action. This enum contains all the multiple actions that this auth module is going to have. So we are going to have here a second action that we can already add. That is going to be the logout action. To summarize, this enum here is going to contain one entry per action that belongs to this authentication module. The action itself, however, is going to be a plain JavaScript class. We are going to then write here our first action, the login action. This action contains a property called type, and this property comes by implementing here the action interface, and this property is going to be a read-only string that is going to correspond to this value here. This is a unique string identifier that identifies what type of action is being dispatched. At the end of this file, we also have the auth actions union type that currently only contains the login class. This is going to help us to write our reducers later on. Right now, we have finished the implementation of our first NgRx action. Let's go ahead and see how can we use the login action class. In order to use the login action, we need the store. So let's go ahead and switch to our login component and inject the store in the constructor. So we are going to inject it each time in the same way. We're going to define this as a store of application state. Using the store, we will then be able to dispatch a new action. So that would look something like this. We're going to call store.dispatch, and to the dispatch method, we are going to pass in here a new instance of the login action class. The login action is only going to be dispatched after the user has successfully logged into the application. Our user login is going to be performed here using the authentication service. Let's then go ahead and see what this looks like. In the next lesson, we are going to implement the login logic for this component, and we are going to dispatch our very first NgRx action.